The date is March 29, 1987. The Pontiac Silverdome trembles with anticipation, a cathedral of American spectacle where mythology collides with raw human drama. Nikolai Volkoff stands center ring, a towering embodiment of Cold War antagonism, his muscular frame draped in the red and yellow of the Soviet flag, an intentional provocation designed to ignite the collective fury of over 93,000 passionate wrestling fans. Beside him, the Iron Sheik, another foreign proxy warrior, represents a different strain of international villainy. Together, they are more than wrestlers. They are living, breathing geopolitical metaphors, weaponizing the deep-seated tensions of a world perpetually balanced on the razor's edge of nuclear confrontation. When Volkoff's resonant baritone begins the Russian national anthem, the arena transforms. His performance is not merely a musical interlude, but a psychological warfare tactic, a deliberate assault on American patriotic sensibilities. Each note becomes a calculated dagger, a sonic challenge to the very notion of national pride. The crowd's response is instantaneous and volcanic, a cascading wave of boos that threatens to overwhelm the arena's structural integrity. This was wrestling as political theater, with Volkoff as its most compelling provocateur. Tonight, Nikolai Volkoff and the Iron Sheik, accompanied by their manager Slick, will face the Killer Bees. As Volkoff begins singing the Soviet national anthem, Hacksaw Jim Duggan storms the ring with his 2x4 adorned with an American flag, declaring that Volkoff would not disgrace the land of the free and the home of the brave. Duggan's antics escalated into chaos when he struck the Iron Sheik with his 2x4 during a camel clutch, prompting a disqualification victory for Sheik and Volkoff, further cementing their legendary status in the world of professional wrestling. But how did we get here? Long before he became the Soviet strongman who would electrify wrestling audiences across America, Josip Hrvoje Peruzovich, who would later become Nikolai Volkoff, was born in Split, Yugoslavia on October 14, 1947. His early life was a canvas painted with complexity, a narrative far more nuanced than the cartoonish Soviet villain he would eventually portray. Growing up in post-World War II Yugoslavia, young Nikolai was introduced to physical culture through weightlifting. His imposing physique was not a wrestling construct, but a natural evolution of his athletic journey. Before wrestling became his canvas, he was an accomplished weightlifter, representing Yugoslavia in international competitions, a detail that would later inform his extraordinary in-ring strength and authenticity. In 1967, seeking opportunities beyond the constraints of communist Yugoslavia, Volkoff immigrated to Canada. This was not merely a geographical transition, but a profound personal metamorphosis. He understood, even then, that reinvention was an art form, a lesson he would masterfully apply in professional wrestling. Trained in Calgary by the legendary Stu Hart, he made his US debut in 1970. The Soviet Volkoff persona, first portrayed by Croatian-born Steve Gobrokovic, was later inherited and immortalized by Josip. This initial US debut came in Vince McMahon Sr.'s Worldwide Wrestling Federation as Beppo Mongol, teaming with Newton Tatry under the guidance of Captain Lou Albano. The duo won the International Tag Team Championship, but after losing the unified titles over a year later, Peruzovic departed the federation to forge a singles career as Nikolai Volkoff. Volkoff then returned in 1974, battling the legendary Bruno Sammartino in a sold-out Madison Square Garden match that ignited a fiery feud, with arenas across the Northeast packed to witness their clashes. By 1976, he briefly donned a mask as the Executioner, joining Killer Kowalski and Big John Studd to capture the World Tag Team Championship, though the title was vacated due to outside interference. Reverting to his Volkoff persona, he thrilled fans by crushing apples with one hand as a symbol of his dominance, later challenging Bob Backlund during his reign as champion. In late 1974, Volkoff transitioned to the AWA, adopting the name Boris Brezhnev, under the management of Bobby the Brain Heenan, though his Soviet powerhouse persona remained intact. Between 1977 and 1983, he competed internationally in Japan for both New Japan Pro Wrestling and All Japan Pro Wrestling, before joining Cowboy Bill Watts' Mid-South Territory in 1983. By the mid-1980s, Volkoff was at the height of his powers. Having returned to the now renamed World Wrestling Federation in July 1984, he was paired with the Iron Sheik, forming one of the most iconic heel tag teams in wrestling history. Managed by the flamboyant and sharp-tongued, classy Freddie Blassie, Volkoff and the Sheik personified Cold War anxieties in the ring. Volkoff's theatrical rendition of the Soviet national anthem before matches, followed by the Iron Sheik's infamous Iran #1, Russia #1 proclamation, electrified audiences, drawing deafening jeers from American fans. Their crowning achievement as a tag team came on March 31, 1985, at the inaugural WrestleMania, where Volkoff and the Sheik defeated the fan-favorite US Express to capture the tag team championships. The finish was emblematic of the era. Blassie's cane was instrumental, a reminder of the heel's propensity for bending the rules. This victory not only secured their place in WrestleMania history, but also showcased Volkoff's ability to embody the archetype of the foreign antagonist. Though their reign as champions lasted only 3 months, the duo's ability to generate heat made them perennial contenders. The same year, Volkoff transitioned to singles competition, where he began challenging none other than Hulk Hogan, the world heavyweight champion. Their encounters, including a notable flag match on Saturday night's main event, were exercises in theatrical storytelling. Hogan, the all-American hero clad in red and yellow, was the perfect foil to Volkoff's Soviet persona. These matches elevated Volkoff's profile while reinforcing Hogan's legendary status. By late 1985, Volkoff entered a heated rivalry with Corporal Kirchner, a former paratrooper for the 82nd Airborne Division. The feud was rich in symbolic overtones, with Kirchner embodying patriotic American ideals and Volkoff representing the looming Soviet threat. Their clash at WrestleMania 2 was a continuation of the Cold War narrative within the squared circle. This flag match, held during the Chicago portion of the event, saw Kirchner finally triumph by wielding Blassie's cane, a poetic irony that added depth to their storyline. In the fall of 1986, Volkoff's journey took another turn as his longtime manager Freddie Blassie began to phase out of an active role. The storyline saw Blassie sell half of his managerial stable to the charismatic Slick, known as the Doctor of Style. This transition marked the beginning of a new chapter for Volkoff and the Sheik, who continued their campaigns against newcomers like Hacksaw Jim Duggan. Their encounter at WrestleMania 3 became one of the era's most iconic moments, not for the match itself, but for Duggan's dramatic interruption of Volkoff's anthem performance. The crowd erupted as Duggan stormed the ring with his trademark 2x4, epitomizing the Federation's penchant for blending patriotism with high drama. By 1987, Volkoff was paired with Boris Zhukov, an American wrestler rebranded as a fellow Soviet. Together, they formed the Bolsheviks, a tag team steeped in Cold War imagery. While their performances lacked the championship success of Volkoff's earlier partnership with the Sheik, the Bolsheviks were integral in advancing the Federation's narrative machinery. Their feud with the Powers of Pain and subsequent rivalry with the Bushwhackers solidified their role as mid-card villains, often serving as comic relief. At WrestleMania 6, the Bolsheviks etched their place in trivia lore by losing to the Hart Foundation in a mere 19 seconds, a stark reminder of how the Federation utilized them to elevate other teams. The fall of the Bolsheviks in 1990 marked a profound shift in Volkoff's career. As geopolitical realities transformed, culminating in the dissolution of the Soviet Union, Volkoff's character underwent a remarkable reinvention. In a storyline that resonated with audiences, Volkoff publicly severed ties with Zhukov and began singing the Star-Spangled Banner to raucous applause. This dramatic babyface turn saw Volkoff embrace American ideals, effectively transforming his character from an antagonistic Soviet strongman to a symbol of reconciliation. His new role led to a feud with Sergeant Slaughter, who had adopted a controversial Iraqi sympathizer gimmick. This feud culminated in Volkoff's participation at Survivor Series 1990, where his team emerged victorious, signaling his triumph as a reformed character. By the end of 1990, Volkoff departed the Federation, his character arc a poignant reflection of real-world transformations. He made sporadic returns, including a surprise appearance at the 1992 Royal Rumble, but his time as a central figure in the Federation had passed. On February 3, 2005, Nikolai Volkoff was named among the illustrious inductees for the WWE Hall of Fame's class of 2005. With his formal enshrinement taking place on April 2nd at the Universal Amphitheater in Los Angeles. Introduced by the legendary Jim Ross, Peruzovich eventually passed away at home on July 29, 2018, at 70 years old, just days after his release from a Maryland hospital where he had been treated for dehydration and other complications. His legacy transcends mere athletic achievement. Volkoff represented a generation of performers who understood wrestling as a sophisticated narrative medium, a place where athletic performance, political commentary, and pure entertainment could coalesce into something profoundly meaningful. In the pantheon of professional wrestling, he was more than a performer. He was a living, breathing narrative device who understood that the ring was a stage where personal and political mythologies could be explored, challenged, and ultimately celebrated. May he rest in peace.